Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So today it's gonna be a long video and hopefully I'm able to really capture the essence of everything I want to talk about, inshallah bi qudratillah. So I want to look into the translation of Quran 4 verse 34, the verse where it says to strike one's wife. You see, a lot of non-Muslims use it as an argument against Islam and all of that. And my goal in this video is to share the workings on why the word shouldn't have been translated to strike in the first place, you see. We need the workings so that one is able to stand one's ground to Muslims and non-Muslims alike, you see, and provide the evidence and everything and let them decide if truly it should be translated to strike or it should be translated to what we will eventually talk about in this talk, you see. Yeah, and so part of the wisdom in sharing the workings is so that it can be adapted to the times, so that if we know 2 plus 2 is 4, once we show how we made 2 plus 2 equals 4, in the future, someone else can make 3 plus 1 4, or 1 plus 3 4, or any other derivative of that reality. And so that the 1 does not veer off 4, 1 still arrives at 4, you see. And this is qiyas, that's in jurisprudence, that's in Islamic jurisprudence anyway. But yeah, this is the idea. So this is part of the reason. And essentially another reason why we should show workings, or that I'm going to show workings, is so that it will not be said that one is watering down the religion, you see, or one is catering or pandering to the times or to the West, you know, all of these realities. No, this is not what this is. This is being true to the text, to the Quran, you see. This is being true to the text. And hopefully by the end of this talk, you will agree with me that it's an attempt at being true to the text. May Allah make it easy. So yeah, I have understood it differently for a very long time, and especially because we know that in the Quran there is evidence to prove that women can also file for divorce. You see, that's in Quran 4 verse 1 to 8. So why will the same Quran say you should strike them? Like, it's counterintuitive, right? So definitely it cannot mean that you should strike one's wife. And what's basically, so I said I've known this for a while. This, all I'm about to say, I've known this for a while. But I guess what just keeps making me postpone making this video and everything is just how complex, you see. It's such a complex reality. Like for this talk now, I had to look up every mention of Doroba in the Quran. Every mention of Doroba. I think there are 58 mentions of Doroba in the Quran. I had to look into everything. It's a lot of classical Arabic. I'm very much into classical Arabic because I don't even want to go into the argument for classical Arabic because I don't want this video to be too long, you see. Anyway, so there is this recent video making the rounds on YouTube or online, social media generally, where a Muslim sister stood her ground against 20 Muslim, non-Muslims, or I should say Christians. And that's a very popular video, but a less popular video is one in which one of the Christian women in the audience also had her own show where she basically did a conversation with 12 Muslim sisters. And part of the questions, or part of the part of the prompts that she put up to basically say Islam is not the right religion is that she alleged that Islam does not treat women right. It says, the Quran says, Quran 4, she quoted this verse, Quran 4 verse 34 says you can strike your wives and stuff. And it bothered me so much when I saw the sisters being quiet and saying, it means you can slightly hit them. It's not supposed to be a violent smack. It's not. No, it's none of that. It is none of that. It is none of that. There's no slight touch. There's none of that. And the word should not have been translated to strike. So at the end of this talk, I'm going to introduce some hashtags. But let's get into it. This video is going to be the first in a series of videos that looks into this verse and this word. Like this video is directed towards the old strike your wives aspect of this verse. It didn't start from Ar-Rijalu Qawwamun 'ala Nisa. Like it didn't start from, but I want to do another video where I will basically dissect the entire verse, you see, because for instance, the first word in the verse, Rijal, you see, men. In the Quran also, there is Dhakara wal Untha. You see, Dhakara is translated to men also. You see, Bashar is translated to men also. There are different words. So why Rijal? Anyway, so I intend to do another video that will look into the entire verse. So this is going to be the first in the series. So, and this word. So, what I mainly do, I guess before we go into it, what I mainly do on this channel is take one word, go into its classical Arabic meaning, and try to give Muslims or anybody watching a re-understanding the depth, because Arabic words are not just words, they're not just terms. You see, they're not terms from terminate. You see, so in English, terms terminates expressions, it ends expressions, but in Arabic, words are concepts, and that's why there are no synonyms in Arabic. Technically, there are no synonyms in Arabic, and it's a very fascinating reality. So the concepts, you see, these are the nuances we'll be looking into today, inshallah, bikubratullah. I would advise you not take notes, if you're unable to take notes, it's fine, because I'm planning to also share my notes in the description section on the YouTube channel. There isn't enough space on my other platforms, I think, but YouTube in the description section, I think I should be able to put all of the notes, all of this that I'm using there. Or if not, I'll probably put a link to the post on my blog. That way you can just get it from there. Anyway, so let's get into the verse. So the verse, Quran 4 verse 34, says, men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other, and what is spent for maintenance from their wealth. So righteous women are devoutly obedient, guarding in the husband's absence what Allah would have them guard. But those wives from whom you fear arrogance, first advise them. Then if they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally strike them. But if they obey you once more, seek no means against them. Indeed, Allah is ever exalted and grand. The first reality that jumps at one is how striking them should better the situation. Like if you've advised them, you've forsaken them in bed. So how is striking them supposed to help bring them back on board, you see? But yeah, and like I said before, especially since the woman can also seek for divorce in Islam. So why would this sequence of events be this way? Anyway, so let's get into touch in the Quran. So like I said, some of the sisters were like, or some people, some scholars, in fact, are of the view that it's just a slight touch, not one of violence and the like. So we look into touch in the Quran, the word touch in the Quran, you see. So first of all, we look into Quran 20, verse 97. There, that was the story of Musa, where the samiri, Musa told him that la misas, that you won't be touched, you won't be touched. And it is this masas or misas, that was also used in Quran 24 verse 35, which is the verse on Nurun ala Nur. I will read the translation here. And so that we understand, so this is going to be the first example of touch in the Quran, right? So that we understand the depth of the word misas, right? As it pertains to touching. So Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. The example of his lights is like a niche within which is a lamp. The lamp is within glass. The glass as if it were a pearly white star lit from the oil of a blessed olive tree, neither of the east nor of the west, whose oil would almost glow even if untouched by fire. Light upon light. Allah guides to his light whom he wills, and Allah presents examples for the people, and Allah is knowing of all things. So this expression where it says, whose oil will almost glow even if untouched by fire. See, the word untouched there is tamasas, which is basically the same word, misas. And what it means is that, so what Allah is describing there is that the oil would almost glow as if it were touched by fire. So the picture we should have is, imagine gasoline, and imagine, the amount of the slightness of touch that fire has to touch the gas for it to start basically glowing, for it to basically catch fire. It's a very slight touch. In fact, one would even argue, depending on how potent the gas is, that just bringing it close, the fire would basically just the gas in the gasoline will attract the fire, and then it will ignite. So to give you the reality of how slight of a touch this is, and why I'm mentioning this is that if Allah wanted that one should slightly touch one's wife, you see, in the sequence of the verse that we're talking about, if the intent was a slight touch, Allah would have used misas. You see, Allah would have used misas, because this is like the slightest touch. And the fact that Allah didn't use misas already shows that there is no touch that is recommended. There is no touch that is required, whether violently or otherwise. There is no touch required. And this conversation, these verses alone, these two verses that I've quoted, should end the conversation. If these are the two verses that one has in talking to some other folks, this should be enough. Because if just slight touch cannot be allowed, then every other touch cannot definitely be allowed. But we have more verses that can prove this reality. So we will go into them. Okay, so in Quran 38 verse 42, in the story of Ayub, when he was about to be healed, he was instructed to use his feet to strike the ground, and then water came out and he used it to clean his body, and he became well. The word that was used to signify striking, the striking of the feet of a very sickly man, you see, of a very sickly man, the striking of his feet on the ground, the word that was used, is it doroba? No, it is not doroba. The word is urukud. Urukud is the word. So here now we are looking at the body parts. So all of the mentions of body parts, using body parts to strike someone in the Quran. You see, we've had the slight touch, we've had the touch of somebody that is sickly, so the striking of his feet. See, like I said, urkud was the word that was used. So, and now we go into the story of Ibrahim in Quran 51 verse 29, where when the angels told Ibrahim's wife that she's going to have a child, the Quran says that she basically slapped her own face in like, how will I get pregnant? I'm so old and stuff. And she did that. And the word, again, that was used to describe this striking was not doroba again. So the word is saukat or saukat, you see, saukat. And so now we have slight touch, we've had a sickly man hitting the ground, two different words. Now we have saukat, see? And the word, like I said, is not doroba again. I can't imagine that she struck herself very hard, that it's probably just a degree more than slight or of the feet touching the ground, you see. Now, we go into the story of Musa. See, Musa is the punch guy, right? And there are two expressions that were used in the punching of Musa. The first one I would like to share is there was the punch where, so after he punched the first guy and the guy died, when on the next day, when he tried to basically separate the fight, the Quran said, or it's translated to mean that then he was going to strike the one that was their enemy. So the word that was used there, that's in Quran 28 verse 19, the word that was used there is yabtish. Yabtish. Again, not doroba. Yabtish. So this is a man that was like trying to, the Quran did not state whether it was the guy from yesterday that was going to strike or the guy that he saved yesterday, who eventually snitched on him, basically, or the guy that was manhandling this guy, the officer, you see. But the word that was used, because it was going to just separate them, was yabtish, the striking. Now, the word that was used for, I don't know if I've said, and that's Quran 28 verse 19 for yabtish. Now, for the punch that actually killed the man from the previous day, that's in Quran 28 verse 15. That's wakaz. Wakaz. And so wakaz was the word. So we have all of these degrees. So we see all of these degrees of hitting someone, smacking someone, punching someone, and none of these words were doroba. None of these words were doroba. And even if one wants to say that doroba is a different level of smacking, like I've said, the first quotations that I gave, the slight touch, already negates it, you see, because there is no other touch that can be allowed if just the slight touch is already. But in fact, as you will see, doroba does not even mean to strike someone, you see, it doesn't mean to strike someone. So now we go into, so these are expressions in the Quran where the bodily parts were used to strike. So if Allah was going to talk about bodily parts being used to strike someone, he would have used, like misaas was used a bunch of times, a lot of times in the Quran. He would have used misaas, for instance, or any of these other words, because they are in different degrees and levels, you see. Anyway, now for objects. So objects that were used for striking. So in Quran 3 verse 165 and 166, Sawb, we find Sawb, where there Allah was describing, Allah said that when you struck them, referring to Battle of Badr, and when they struck you, referring to Battle of Uhud. And Allah kept talking about the realities of those battles. But what we are pulling from there is that the war or the battles were referred to as all of the undertaking, all of the punching, the using of sword, the using of arrows, the using of sticks or whatever they used in battle was the word that was used for all of those strikes basically is sob. You see, so any weapon, again, the first quotation I'm giving is one that will take into consideration any other weapon or any other object that one wants to use. You see, because in battle, you're not limited. Anything can be a weapon, you see. So with just this first quote, one can say, and no weapon can be allowed to use to smack one's wife, you see. But again, we have more verses to go with. So the next verse I want to quote is Quran 4 verse 153. It's akhod. Akhod is the word that Allah used for thunder strike. Thunder strike. So when the Jews were like, they want to see Allah face to face, then there was a thunder that struck them and they died and Allah brought them back to life. But the word that was used for strike in that verse, Quran 4 verse 153, is akhod. Akhod. Which, again, if it's going to be a violent blow, one that will probably kill someone with I guess this is not an object. Maybe electricity, for instance. You see? Maybe electricity, for instance, since thunder, this would have been the word, right? Now, for the next one, to hit animals. So in Quran 5 verse 3, mawqudat. So where Allah was talking about food or animals that we cannot eat, like that are haram to us, and part of the lists that Allah gave were animals that have been clubbed to death, that have been, like, an object has been used to hit them to death. Maybe some traditions, they put like cats in bags and slam it on the ground, or they just tie an animal down and they just club it to death, you see. So whatever the weapon is, maybe it's a stick, maybe it's a brick, maybe stones or whatever. So all of that is captured under mawqudat. So that, again, one cannot use, so the fact that the word that was used in Quran 4 verse 34 did not use mawqudat, you see, that means that it also negates this. So you cannot use this kind of weapon, whether it's a club or whatever. So we are removing all of these words, right? Now to the next word I want to look into, that's Quran 24 verse 2 and verse 4. There, that's where Allah was talking about those that do zina. You see, they have to be flogged. And those that accuse innocent women of doing zina, wrongly accuse them, they also have to be flogged. So the I guess objects, whips, I don't know, canes and stuff that one will use to whip these guys, the word that was used to is jalid. Again, not doroba. So one cannot use, so even if one wanted to, for whatever reason, you think, okay, touching and stuff has been exempted, that I'm going to use a weapon. See, you cannot use a whip. You see, you cannot use a club. You cannot use any weapon from the first verse that I quoted. Any weapon, like I said, cannot be used. So there's really nothing to be used, you see, because again, if Allah wants that any of these things to be used or to be done, Allah would have used these words, you see, but Allah did not use any of these words. So if Doroba was not used to describe any of the above strike or touches, and that encapsulates every kind of strike imaginable, then what does Doroba mean? See, we're getting into Doroba now. So what does Doroba mean? If one cannot use weapons or bodily parts to inflict a strike on someone, then what other form is one supposed to use to strike? Like I said, there is no other form. Now, if we say it doesn't mean strike, and it definitely doesn't mean strike, then what does it mean? So now we are going into what Doroba means. Now, Quran 2, verse 273. Hopefully, I'll be putting up the verses on the video. There, Allah was describing the faqir. And says, Charity is for the poor who have been restricted for the cause of Allah, unable to move about in the land. An ignorant person would think them self-sufficient because of their restraint, but you will know them by their characteristic sign. They do not ask people persistently at all, and whatever you spend of good, indeed, Allah is knowing of it. So the word that was translated to move about in the land, move about, you see, fil arid is land, move about in the land is doroba. You see, the word that was translated to move about is doroba. And this is not the only verse, so bear with me. So Quran 3 verse 156, we have, "O you who have believed, do not be like those who disbelieved and said about their brothers when they traveled through the land or went out to fight. If they had been with us, they would not have died or have been killed." So Allah makes that misconception a regret within their hearts. And it is Allah who gives life and causes death. And Allah is seeing of what you do. So the word that was translated to traveled through the land, is doroba. See, the word we are talking about, the word in Quran 4 verse 34 is doroba again. So we've seen Quran 2 verse 273 translated to move about. Now we've seen Quran 3 verse 156 translated to travel through the land. And now we have Quran 4 verse 94. It says, "O you have believed, when you go forth to fight in the cause of Allah, investigate and do not say to one who gives you a greeting of peace, you are not a believer, aspiring for the goods of worldly life. For with Allah are many acquisitions. You yourselves were like that before. Then Allah conferred his favor upon you. So investigate. Indeed, Allah is ever with what you do acquainted." So the word that was translated to go forth, basically to go about, travel again, is doroba here. You see? And like I said, I will try to put up the Arabic of this word and circle the doroba, the usage of doroba in them. And in Quran 4 verse 101, we find again, "And when you travel throughout the land, there is no blame upon you for shortening the prayer, especially if you fear that those who disbelieve may disrupt or attack you. Indeed, the disbelievers are ever to you a clear enemy." So this is the verse on qasr, on shortening one's prayer. So this is the verse. It says, "And when you travel throughout the land," and the word that was translated to travel throughout the land is again doroba. So there is this is the same word. Doroba is the same word. Like I'm having goosebumps. It's the same exact word. Doroba, travel through the land. Like there is no, if you have I don't know, other excuses for the verses before, now there is, like, we know that qasri is about when you are traveling, like when you're traveling on the road. So doroba, this is what it actually means, to travel, to just move about. This is what doroba means. But we're not done yet. So like I said, this is the verse on qasr. This is the verse that permits us to shorten our prayer when we're traveling, you see. Now Quran 5 verse 106 also says, "O you who have believed, testimony should be taken among you when death approaches one of you at the time of bequest, that of two just men from among you or two others from outside, if you are traveling through the land and a disaster of death should strike you. So detain them after the prayer and let them both swear by Allah if you doubt their testimony, saying, we will not exchange our oath for a price, even if it should be a near relative, and we will not withhold the testimony of Allah. Indeed, we would then be of the sinful." So again, the word that was translated to traveling through the land. See, people are traveling through the land, someone's about to die, and they need to give their will and testimony, last will and testimony. And all of this is one of the verses that explains that reality. It says, when one is traveling through the land, there's no other meaning one can give that. It is literally to travel through the land. You see, traveling through the land, Quran 5 verse 106. The word again that was translated to traveling through the land is doroba. You see. Yeah, so this is the last one, inshallah. So Quran 73 verse 20, we have, indeed, your Lord, it's a very long one. Indeed, your Lord knows, O Muhammad, that you stand, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that you stand in prayer almost 2/3 of the night, or half of it, or 1/3 of it, and so do a group of those with you. And Allah determines the extent of the night and the day. He has known that you Muslims will not be able to do it and has turned to you in forgiveness. So recite what is easy for you of the Quran. He has known that there will be among you those who are ill and others traveling throughout the land, seeking something of the bounty of Allah, and others fighting for the cause of Allah. So recite what is easy from it, and establish prayer, and give zakat, and loan Allah a goodly loan. And whatever good you put forward for yourselves, you will find it with Allah. It is better and greater in reward. And seek forgiveness of Allah. Indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful. So again, this verse, the word that was translated to traveling through the land is daraba again. It's daraba again. So I mean, it is a settled reality now. Like I said, you don't have to take notes now. I will put the notes on the YouTube or my blog and stuff, and then you can just copy and do with it in the best way. So something I want you to notice in all of the verses that I quoted is, notice who is using daraba. It's not like Allah is quoting someone like they said something. No, Allah is the one using daraba. So no other translations should say otherwise. No other person has the right to say other than what Allah has said of his words. And this is enough. This is enough. This is enough of a translation. This is enough of a translation for anybody who really is a Muslim, right? This is Allah using daraba to mean travel through the land. Whatever the Arabs of the times, or the Arabs of the present times, or the Arabs of whenever time think it means is immaterial. This is what Allah is translating is the word to mean, to travel through the land. Allahumma salli wa sallim taslim. So what does daraba, I wanted to pause for effect, really, to let that reality sink in. The reality that it was Allah that translated the word, that used the word daraba to mean travel. Now, let's go into the classical Arabic meaning of it. So the classical Arabic meaning of daraba is to journey in an effort to present or show something. Is to journey, it's marvelous. Now, I mean, all that I've said is interesting, but this is very exciting. It's just levels of excitement, you see. So I mentioned geek mode, basically. So what daraba means is to journey in an effort, or travel in an effort to present or show something, or to bring upon. It signifies effort, painstaking effort, toiling, despite how hard it is, despite the fear you encounter on the journey, you protect yourself, the message, the thing. Imagine a king, has his servants that he has to send a letter through, or a gift or whatever to go give someone. You see, this is when daraba, this is the usage of daraba. So you are traveling to go present something. This is the usage of daraba. So when that kind of traveling is, one can travel for any other reason, but when it has to do with, when the end goal is to present something, this is when daraba is used. This is when daraba is used. So, and all of the efforts that it's going to take, it's not just one day you'll be on the road. It depends. Some can be quick, some can take a while. So one prepares for the journey, you see, and one braves the odds and gets the message across, or whatever it is. So we are expected to journey to present the message to them. Technically, if one pays close attention, one realizes that there is no way to present a message to the people or to anybody except through journeying. You see, I'm about to get into, so the first instance I want to mention is the mention of Allah in the Quran, where Allah says, Daraballahu mathala. See, Daraballahu mathala. Allah presents, see, Allah does daraba of a parable or an example. They use these expressions to translate mathala. Allah presents, and there are like 24 instances in the Quran where it is Allah presenting a message or a parable. You see, Allah talks about the mosquito as a parable, the fly as a parable, the foam of the sea as a parable. You see, even the light upon light verse that we quoted above, mathala was also used there. See, Allah presenting the example. And now, for the geeky part about this is that when you then think about the Quran, see, Jibril brings it. It's a journey. Allahu Akbar. Jibril brings it to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Doroba is the perfect word. See, Allah presents an example. Even though within the Doroba there is even more Doroba. So the Quran is being Dorobad to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and within that Doroba, even more Dorobas. See, Allah presenting examples, Allah presenting parables. You see, so that it's the perfect usage of the word Doroba. And like I said, there are over 24 examples. And hopefully, maybe in the blog post, I will post all of these mentions of where Allah is saying, Daraballahu mathala. Allah presents to you a parable. And this is what I'm translating to present is Doroba, which is, and what one has to have at the back of their mind, because English is not equipped to translate the Quran, you see, or to translate Arabic in its true essence. What you should have at the back of your mind with this word present, some translators, even because they want to be true to this whole idea of strike, they say Allah strikes for you an example. No, it is Allah presents. But what you should have at the back of your mind is that there is a journey in the process of this presentation. You see, there's a journey involved. So yeah. And then in some instances, also like 3 instances, Allah says that we should, see, says, وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلًا. Allah is saying that we should present the parable to the people. Allah is, in those instances, we are the ones that have to put in the effort to present the message. And by Allah saying He presents this example, going back to that, Daraballahu mathala, we also have to take the message and present it to the people, you see. And in this instance also, Allah talks about وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلًا, that we should be the ones to present the message. Allahumma salli wa sallim taslim. So that Doroba in Quran 4 verse 34 in question means to travel back. Now, if we now go into the verse, back to the verse, Quran 4 verse 34, it means to travel back to the bed that you've done hijrah from. Now, more exciting stuff. That you've done hijrah from. Return to them to go back to the bed that one has done hijrah from. And you're hearing hijrah, you're like, how does hijrah, what does hijrah have to do with anything here, right? If you go and look at the text, which hopefully I will put up here, if you go and look at the text, the word that was translated to forsake them in bed is hijrah. I want that to sink in. Is hijrah. The same hijrah from Mecca to Medina, you know, the whole traveling stuff is hijrah. Hijrah calendar, everything started, muhajirun, all of these realities, all of these different usage of the word is hijrah. So that Allah is saying that we should do hijrah, so this forsake them in bed, or forsake the bed for them, or whatever. This translation that they are using, it's actually to leave the bed. to travel away from the bed. You see? So that the word, I don't want to jump in my explanation, but just have it at the back of your mind that this word that was translated to forsake them in bed is hijrah. To do hijrah, and the word bed was actually used. So forsake, so travel. So we know what hijrah means, to emigrate, to leave a place. You see? Now, so you see the traveling theme, basically. So we have an idea what doroba means, but I will get into more details soon. But now we see that if one is traveling away from the bed, of course, if one wants to present oneself back to that bed, like we've been talking about, if one wants to present oneself back to that bed, the perfect word is doroba. The perfect word is doroba, because now we are traveling to, despite how difficult it will be, we're traveling back to the bed. You see, to present oneself back to the bed. And so Allah used doroba. And this is the essence and the meaning of the word doroba there, is to travel back to the bed. You see? Now, it makes sense that if you do hijrah, you'd have to travel back to be able to present oneself. See, doroba. How perfect are Allah's words. You see, the precision, the perfect precision. Allahu Akbar. It's perfectly used. The word doroba is perfectly used. And that makes it easy for us. Now, how far away, now let's go into more details. How far away can one go from the bed, and for how long? And for how long? So this is where I would like to say a quick story. It's an hadith which I'll most likely post here, where Ibn Abbas was the one that asked Umar ibn Khattab, may Allah bless both of them, about the incident where the Prophet basically took an oath to stay away from his wives, stay away from all of his wives. And so Umar, when explaining what happened to Ibn Abbas, told him that his neighbor, they would take turns. One of them would go to the Prophet, be with him. Anything that happened that day, they would tell the other one. So one day, his neighbor came to him banging on the door and said, the Prophet has basically divorced all of his wives. And of course, one of Umar's daughters is one of the Prophet's wives. So Umar went to the house of the Prophet to go inquire about this reality. Anyway, to cut the long story short, when the guy was banging on the door, I should also state this, when the guy was banging on the door, Umar said he thought that it was because there's a tribe called Ghassan. Ghassan was about to, or was already invading. We thought that because they were expecting that there's a tribe called Ghassan was going to invade anytime soon. This is important. We'll get into it later. He thought that Ghassan was going to invade. And so he rushed out, like, as Ghassan invaded, and he was like, no, and told him about the divorce. And so the Prophet Umar went there to inquire about it. And that's the hadith where we see that Umar, on getting into the room, the Prophet was not in the same room with his wives. It was in a different quarter. And so he saw that there were marks of mats on his body, and because he was sleeping basically on the mats, on straws, and you can get into, I'll post the hadith here where you can read into more details. I don't want the video to be too long, but what the Prophet then said, what then happened was, eventually he said he was going to stay away from them for a month. So at the end of the month, because of whatever it is that they did, I don't want to go into the details of what they did, and at the end of the month, the Prophet went to Aisha first. So a couple of verses were revealed to him while he was in that quarter. And so he went to Aisha first, and he gave him, and he basically revealed the verses that were revealed to him, to Aisha. And before I say the verses, I should state this, that the Prophet was the best to his wives. See, the Prophet was the best to his wives, And he even said, the best of us are those that are best to their wives. See, this is the reality. So there is no way, and we never heard that the prophet smacked any of his wives. No, never. All of them were always praising him. And you see in the verses I'm about to recite also, they were always praising him, never struck any of his wives, never maltreated them in any which way or form. And so, which means that this cannot be the reality of that verse. And now, you see, the prophet has done hijrah away from his wives, as we've seen. Now he's going back to them. Now, he visits Aisha first. In those days, so then he revealed these verses, and he said, Quran 33 verse 28 says, O prophet, say to your wives, if you should desire the worldly life and its adornment, then come. I will provide for you and give you a gracious release. And verse 29 says, but if you should desire Allah and his messenger and the home of the hereafter, then indeed Allah has prepared for the doers of good among you a great reward. So, Prophet when he met Aisha, when he first went to Aisha, he told her that I'm about to reveal some verses to you, but I want you, before you make your decision, to ask your parents. Their views and stuff, so that it won't be like there's a coercion going on and stuff. And so Prophet revealed these verses to her. And she said, no, is this about why I should go ask my parents? No, I choose you. I choose Allah. Choose you. This is what she said. I don't have to ask. I don't have to inquire. I don't have to wait for anything. I choose you. This is what Aisha said. See? Allah bless her. This is what Aisha said right off the bat. She, first of all, when he came in, she was like, it's the 29th day. Like, you said you were going to stay away from us for a month. And the Prophet said some months are 29. You see? And so with that, it was settled that he'd completed his month away from them. And so then he revealed these verses to her, and she chose the Prophet ﷺ and Allah and the home of the hereafter. And then he did the same for all of his other wives, and they all chose him. None of them decided to leave or anything. Now, what all of this brings to our reality is, so like I said, when he came back, there was no smacking, which is something we're going to get into. There was no smacking involved. There was no light smacking. There was no punching. There was no flogging. There was no tapping. There was none of that involved. It was just came back to the bed and asked questions like, this is what it is, and this should solve the matter. We'll get into the realities of those soon. So to go back, to return or to travel back to the bed. Now for the question of how, I think I should attempt to answer the question that I raised, which is that the first question is, how far away can one go? How far away can one go? So the word hijrah, like I said, is to emigrate. One can say that one can be in a different room because one has to go away from the bed, because bed was literally used. The word bed was literally used. Modoja, bed, and in Quran 32 verse 6, it was also used as bed. Arise from your beds to supplicate to their Lord. And those that arise from their beds to supplicate. So the physical bed was the word that was used in Quran 4 verse 34. And I just quoted another verse that used the bed, like those that arise to pray in the night, those that arise from their bed to pray. So literal bed. So that's Quran 32 verse 6. And another mention is Quran 3 verse 154. So bed. So if you have to do hijrah away. Now one can say that one can go to a different quarter, just like the Prophet ﷺ did. Or one can argue for even leaving the house or the state, or go outside, like travel abroad or something. Where am I getting this from? where I'm getting this from is that I think the reason, and Allah knows best, I think the reason the Prophet could not leave Medina at the time was because they were expecting an invasion. You see, we don't know what the Prophet, it is in Allah's wisdom that he made sure that there was that reality on ground. There was that reality of that they were expecting an invasion, and so the farthest it could go is a different quarter. So which is to ease our religion for us, really, because now we can use that as an example to go to a different room in the house for those that may not be rich enough. We may even use it to, if one is living in just one room or something, to mean to probably sleep on a couch. You see, part of the beauties, part of the interesting realities in this is that it is the man that has to go away from the bed. It is the man that has to go away from the bed and go sleep on the couch or on the floor. I was explaining this to a sister once, and she said, one of the ways that she's understood it is that the husband can back the wife on the bed. And I said, no, the Quran literally mentions bed. One has to leave the bed. One has to leave the bed. I don't know that one can back one's wife and still be on the bed and fulfill the conditions in this verse. One has to leave the bed. So where he sleeps, but again, the argument for going abroad, I think one can deduce that from the fact that they were expecting an invasion. As for how long one can take, we see that the Prophet took an oath for a month. So if one wants to take an oath for a month, that's one's prerogative. And some scholars are of the view that the longest that one can stay away from one's wife is 4 months. But there are no stipulated, I could not find any stipulated time that restricts this hijrah. And of course, if you are not going to come back, why not just divorce the woman? And especially since she can also divorce. And that's another interesting thing. Allahu Akbar. I'm reminded. The verse that talks about, that I quoted above, that talks about the woman divorcing her husband, part of the conditions is desertion. If she fears desertion from her husband, she can file for divorce. So if the man is gone too long and she sees that they are not reaching a consensus or reconciliation, she can file for divorce. So there's that reality too. So if the man wants to go and not issue divorce or whatever, she can issue divorce and stuff. So anyway, this is to state that reality. So going back to the bed, now I've differentiated it into two. I've categorized them into two places. So there is the soft and happy return. So I call this soft and happy return, where I say travel back to the bed and present oneself on the bed as a show of forgiveness, settlement, and reconciliation because an agreement has been reached or made. So one can decide to go back to the bed because one is happy that a reconciliation has been made. So it's not, so the traveling is not a arduous process. The traveling to the bed is soft. There's no hardship in it. And the ending, when one eventually presents oneself, there's a happy ending. It's just like the Prophet ﷺ did with his wives. He went back to them and he stated the verses, and they chose him, and that was the end of it. So if one has whatever one wants to put forth as a common ground or something, one goes back to them, presents it, they agree, this happy. Doroba has been done. See, one goes back. You see, and if one even wants to say strike, like if you're gone, how do you strike the person that you're away from? You see, strike cannot happen. You have to come back. And the coming back is not to strike, as we see in the life of the Prophet, and as we've seen with all of the words that actually mean to strike. You see, this cannot be the reality. Now, the other category that I created is hard and sad return. Hard and sad return, in which I said, or it may be that an agreement has not been made, but one presents oneself on the bed, perhaps to see if they will have one, and so it serves as them now cooperating and now accepting of the terms that they were in dispute about. So one can return back to the bed to see what expression or reaction would be. If it is one of calmness, and one can translate. Of course, there's going to be conversations about it. One cannot just go back to bed. And one shows oneself and on the bed, and the woman then says, okay, this, I've thought about it, and this. Despite how hard, see, the first one already, there was already reconciliation already done, perhaps even in the absence of one another or something. But there was happiness involved. But this one, despite how hard it is to go back and to see or test the waters, as they say, to see what a reaction would be, so this is the hard and sad return, because one is not sure of what one is going to get. You see, so there can be that soft and happy return, and the hard and sad return, to see if they now agree to the terms or whatever both parties are in dispute about. So travel back to the bed and present oneself on the bed, despite how hard it may be. How far? Okay, so I already answered these questions on how far away one can go and for how long. And like I said before, the wife gets to sleep on the bed. The guy can decide to sleep on the floor, couch, a different quarters, a different house, abroad, or whatever. So now, this is the end of the talk on Doroba, and I hope I have been able to convince you that the word Doroba does not mean strike and should not be translated to mean strike. You see, it should not be translated to mean strike. It should be translated to going back. See, and then they can put in bracket, as they do, to the bed. See, traveling back to the bed. But even the word traveling back, or traveling back to present oneself, see, very verbose. Those will be the closest words with intent of what Doroba actually means. You see, and I make it easy for us. So another question I want to answer in this video, I don't want to make it another video, is the hadith that is the hadith on command your children to pray at the age of 7, but beat them to go pray at the age of 10. So the word, a lot of people don't know this, but the word that was translated to beat them is Doroba. The word that was translated to beat them is Doroba. Now, with what we know of Doroba, now let's revisit this hadith. I'm going to put the hadith up, inshallah. Let's revisit this hadith. So the word that was translated to command them is Amr. And of course, like I said, the word I was translated to, okay, I should read the hadith. It says, command your children to pray when they become 7 years old, and beat them for it when they become 10 years old. Now, the first thing, before I even go into the word Amr, and try to relate it to Doroba, and why Doroba even in there doesn't mean to beat them, I'd like to first state Quran 5 verse 18, where Allah says, if you are Allah is giving the Christians and the Jews, Allah said, if you are the children of Allah, then why does Allah punish you? You see, with that, we should have the mind of, so Allah is basically saying that parents should not punish their children, should not beat their children, should not afflict them, should not put upon them afflictions and stuff. See, from just this reality, says, if you are the children of Allah as they claim, then why does Allah punish you? You see, that should be enough argument on why this hadith should not be translated to beat your children. And like I said, like I've been saying, we have more. Plus, the Prophet ﷺ is known to have never, you see, this is another reality. All of them. The Prophet is known to have never struck any of his kids, his adopted kids, or even kids that they put in his care. This is I'm reminded of Anas bin Malik. He was put his mother came and put Anas bin Malik in his care, and for as long as he said never did he ever strike him, which it's the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's the best of us, so it's a very, very difficult reality. But the Prophet never struck any of them. You see, so if we are going to follow in the footstep again, another so I quoted the Quran verse, and now the Sunnah of the Prophet is he never struck any of the kids, even when they will be climbing on him, his grandchildren will be climbing on him during Salat and everything. No, never. You see. So now let's go into the word Amr. So to understand, so if I just say that Doroba there means to take them back, you'll be like, what does, how did I get there? So now let's translate the word command them to pray. You see, the word I was translated to command is Amr. So now let's go into the Quran for the word Amr. So we find in Quran 3 verse 104 where Amr bil Ma'ruf, you see, Amr bil Ma'ruf says, which is translated to enjoin good. You see, وَيَنْهَوْنَا عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. You see, and that is translated to forbid evil or forbid bad, as they say. Now, the verse, I want to read the translation. And let there be arising from you a nation inviting to all that is good, enjoining, which is Amr. You see, that's the usage of Amr. What is right, and forbidding, which is Yanhauna, what is wrong. And those will be successful. So this word Ma'ruf and Munkar are part of the words that I've already talked about in my shorts. If you guys want to look up some of my shorts, you'll find I explained deeply what Ma'ruf and Munkar means. Here it's just translated to good and wrong, or right and wrong. But Amr is where we want to go to. So, and I also will try to define Yanhauna, you see, the word that's translated to forbidding. So we find Amr being used there. Now in Quran 3 verse 110, we also find Allah said, you are the best nation produced as an example for mankind. You enjoin Amr, what is right, and forbid Yanhauna, what is wrong, and believe in Allah. If only the people of the scripture had believed, it would have been better for them. Among them are believers, but most of them are defiantly disobedient. So it is another translated to enjoin, you see, another word for command and the likes. Now, Quran 9 verse 71, the believing men and believing women are allies of one another. They enjoin, Amr, what is right, and forbid, Yanhauna, what is wrong, and establish prayer and give zakah and obey Allah and His Messenger. Those Allah will have mercy upon. Indeed, Allah is exalted in might and wise. So, and in Quran 20 verse 132, it says, and enjoin. See, this is the verse on enjoining one's family to pray. It says, and enjoin prayer upon your family and people, and be steadfast therein. We ask you not for provision, we provide for you, and the best outcome is for those of righteousness. So, what does Amr mean? See, what does Amr? In classical Arabic, what Amr means, Amr is said of, imagine when you're asking for direction, even in today's age. One says, for instance, in classical times, in the deserts, they would say, if you go like 5 miles down, you will see a boulder, a rock, or a mountain or something, make a right. Then if you go another 5 miles, you see like two twin structures or something. Then make a left there. Then these boulders, these landmarks that are being used to describe the destination of a place, it's what is called Amr. And so when they want to give, so they now started using it as in speaking, in that when they want to, and because if you tell someone to turn right at a particular spot, at a particular landmark, if they go left, they will not get to their destination. They have to make a right. You see? So it is a must that they make a right. So this reality is what is transported into the word Amr. And that is why it is being translated as enjoining. So that when you give a border, when you give a landmark, they have to. It is like a command. You see, that's why it's translated to command them or enjoin them. But what is missing in that translation is the fact that it is supposed to be a landmark. It is supposed to be. So if we want to put it into the hadith, for instance, says enjoin them. It is you advising them. You see, just like you would advise someone that you're giving directions to. Oh, if you go down there, if you get to the border, the landmark, make a right, or the hill. If you get to the red rock, make a left. This is what it should be translated to, really. It's not command them, just stand and start dishing out commands. No, it's to make them see reasons why they should make a right at the landmarks. See, and this is why understanding classical Arabic matters. For them to make a right at the landmark, you have to, in the best possible way, in the clearest form, as you would give someone that needs direction. You see, as you would give someone that needs direction. And so, this is what Amru means. It's a marker. To give pointers. I wrote here, I said, to give pointers towards ma'ruf. You see? So all of the verses that I've quoted, Amru then would be that to give pointers towards ma'ruf. To say, oh, see, if you make a right there, you'll be closer to getting to wherever it is your destination is. You'll be getting all of these rewards. You see, all of these incentives are the things that we should. So at 7 years old, you should be advising them in this way. Giving them pointers and the likes. To make them see the landmarks and let them know that to not follow your pointers will mean that they will not get to their destination. Now, check this theme out. Remember Hijrah? See? Now, I was like, check this theme out. If you remember Hijrah and Doroba. So, Hijrah, going away, and Doroba, coming back. You see? There's a consistent theme in that. You see, there's this traveling thing going on with that. Now, Yanhauna anil munkar. Yanhauna anil munkar. The root alphabets are Nun, Ha, and Ya. And what does it mean? What does Yanhauna mean in classical Arabic? Yanhauna is said of a cliff. Yanhauna is said of a cliff. So if one gets to the end of a road and there's just this sudden drop, this is a cliff, right? This sudden drop. So one stops. And so when Allah says, Yanhauna anil munkar, it is that, before I even go into what it means, we see a consistent theme going on. So Amr and Yanhauna are related in that both have to do with being on the road. Just like I showed you with Hijrah and Doroba. They both have this traveling thing going on with them. This Amr and Yanhauna also have been on the road and the realities on the road, which is one gives markers on where to turn and stuff, and the other basically says, stop. There is no way forward. But what does this mean? Now, if we want to go into how it relates to munkar, or how do we translate it to, where we transport it into munkar, it says, it first means to not put markers that lead to munkar. You see, the opposite will be true. So if you are going to forbid or do yanhauna of munkar, you cannot be advising people to go towards munkar. You see, you cannot be showing markers or landmarks that leads towards munkar. This is the reality of it. So it also means to create systems that create cliffs. You see, to create system that creates cliffs that, on the path to munkar. So if we want to transport that idea so that when people are trying to go towards munkar, what they get on the road is a drop, a cliff. So we should create systems that does that. This is a translation. This would be a closer meaning to the word yanhauna. We should create systems that make sure that people are unable to go towards munkar, because it will be impossible for them to go beyond the system. To put systems in place that makes it impossible to get to munkar. See, This is it. Now back to the hadith, like the hadith in question. Now that we know what amr and doroba means, you see, now that we know what amr and doroba means, as the hadith use them, do you also see the theme here? So we have hijra and doroba, we have amr and nahauna, and now we have amr and doroba. Now, like I have said, amr is markers, pointers on the path to going somewhere. It says when they are 7 years old, basically advise them towards amr. Do amr to them. Make sure, educate them, give them the reasons why they should do this and all of that. This is amr. But when they turn 10, now that if we remember our meaning of doroba, when they turn 10, what should happen? You should not just give them direction towards amr, but you should now take them, journey with them, be the one that basically travels them to salat and presents them to salat. Traveling with presentation. So if at 7, while you give the amr, before 10, maybe one day they say, I'm too tired, I want to sleep or something, you can let it slide. But from 10 or something, then you have the responsibility to not only give them amr, but also make sure that they get to the destination, they get to where they are going to pray. And this is what the hadith should be translated to mean, which is then taking them to go pray. Taking them to go pray. And so, which means that at 7, you give them pointers, advise them, make them start seeing, to take a right when they get to that border, to that landmark. But from 10 onwards, you take them to pray. And with the Quran saying amr, it means, like I quoted in the Quran saying that, Quran 20 verse 132 says, and do amr, so enjoin prayer upon your family. So with this means that if we now put it with the hadith, it means that even when they turn 10 or after they turn 10, our job of doing amr does not end. Our job of doing amr continues, because Allah's verse says that we should do amr towards them going to pray. So we will still be, so it does not just stop once they turn 10. What this just means that from the moment they turn 10, now we have the responsibility to make sure that they get to salat. So one starts taking them. So, and with the Quran saying amr, it means that even when one starts taking them, one must still continue to do amr of salat to them. See? So this is the serious scholarship that is missing, not only with the Quran, but also with the hadith literature. Now, with this understanding, I cannot even imagine if I were to go into every mention of doroba in the hadith literature and try to reinterpret them, seeing how they were used and the likes. Anyway, if anybody wants to, I've taken it upon myself that I will try to do the explanation of the mentions of doroba, or the controversial translations of doroba in the Quran. But if anybody is into or wants to get into the hadith literature and they want to do it, they can buzz me. You guys can DM me on my Facebook, Instagram, the Marham Institute. I think they are shortened in one way or the other. On TikTok also, and on Twitter and YouTube. I don't know. I don't think YouTube has a inboxing or messaging system, but you guys can inbox me, and then I will try to show you on how to do the research, and then we can see how to put it out there. And yeah, anyway, so that's that on that, because this is why, as some people will probably have seen in the video about the Christian that was asking the Muslim women questions, where a couple of them were like, I don't even believe in the hadith. I mean, I don't know how Muslims are supposed to practice the religion without believing in the hadith. And but this before we start talking them down, before we start talking them down, we should first do a serious explanation, a serious translation of the hadith literature. These are the kind of serious scholarship that is missing in the Quran, in the hadith literature, and in the books of the scholars. People just, because of the itinerant, dialects of Arabic that they are, people think they understand the classical Arabic nuance of the words, you see. When Allah was revealing the Quran, and the Arabians will plug their ears, that they don't want to, that they are afraid that if they hear the Quran, they will. That's because they understood the classical Arabic meaning of each word, which is now missing. Like, they didn't have to, these Muslims, these non-Muslims, that they were afraid that if they hear it, they will become, they are not afraid that somebody will just start lecturing them. No, just hearing the recitation is what they are afraid about, you see. So this is the depth of classical Arabic. Anyway, so let me read what I have here. The project, instead of talking down, okay, I think I already said all of this translation intent, very close in intent. The next episode that I want to do in this series, I don't know, like I said, is going to be this verse. I don't know which one I will do first, maybe this verse or the story of Ayub, where Doroba was used there also. But for me to, which is what intimidates me with doing these talks about the Quran. Like, for me to do a very studious scholarship of this verse in its totality, I would have to go into Rijal, Qawam, Nisa, Fadl, Nafaqa, Amwal, Solihat, Qanitat, Hafizatun lil Ghaib, Khawf, Nushuz, Fa'iz, Hijr, Madaji', Daraba, Ta'a, Tabagu, Sabil, Aliyan, and Kabir. And for me to look into all of these words and their mentions, all of their mentions in the Quran, such a daunting task, you see. But inshallah, I will look into doing it. Perhaps that will be the next installation, perhaps to be something related to Doroba. We'll see how it goes. So my plea at this juncture, I want to make a plea to the Quran translators, or to those that are in charge of the apps that are very readily available online. If anybody knows anybody that works in that space, or if they can pass these videos around for, for if they would take all that I've mentioned seriously, they can try to retranslate this word. They can try to retranslate this word Doroba in the Quran, so that it fits the true intention of the word, you see. May Allah make it easy for them, and may Allah make it easy for us. Another reality is that, so I said I was going to share some hashtags. So I have hashtag #StrikeOutStrike, hashtag #StrikeOutStrike, SOS, StrikeOutStrike. So strike from this verse, you see. Strikeouts are SOS. Save our sisters, hashtag save our sisters, another SOS. And hashtag save our souls, another SOS. Hashtag save #StrikeOutStrike, hashtag SOS, hashtag save our sisters, and hashtag save our souls. So please share this video with sisters. Should try to share this video in sisters circles, and to male circles too, because the men have to understand the depth of this. And it's interesting that, see, if one even reads the conditions that were before this, advise them, leave the bed and go back to them. The conditions, a lot of men do not even meet these conditions. See, Arijalun, they translate Qawam to being Lord or being guardians. No, Qawam has to do with being erect. And Rijal, like I said, Rijal, there are different words for male or the man in the Quran. Rijal has to do with the feet. It has to do with standing on one's feet. So the men, so Allah, by Allah using Rijal, there are men that are able to stand on their feet. They're already standing on their feet. And Qawam has to do with being erect. So that, and Nisa has to do with being bent bone. So men are supposed to help women stand erect in the society. They are supposed to invest, and that is why you find that the subsequent conditions has to do with spending on them to help them to, because as we see in the world now men are only, they are not interested in creating powerful women, whereas Rijalun Qawamun ala Nisa is basically saying that men should be making women powerful, should be making them stand erect in the society. You see? And men that are not doing this are now asking to be striking, like, they don't go together. You see? So that only when these conditions, the conditions before, the next one will be because they spend of what they have on their women. The men that are not doing all of this want to be doing what comes after? No. You see? So the realities of why people are not just trying to be true to the text, you see? And it is only when these are met, I'm sure even women will agree that the man that is doing all of this, deciding not to work back to back, for instance, not to take shifts back to back, because he also wants his wife to work. So that someone is going to take care of the kids. So they share the shift. So she's able to go to work. He's able to go to work. He's also making sure that maybe she doesn't have a degree, making sure that she finishes college, gets a degree and stuff. These are ways to help her qawam, you see, to stand erect, to be erect, just like you already are on your feet. So if a man that is not on his feet is trying to be doing all of the conditions that are below, no, if you've not even met all of the conditions before, you see. Anyway, but like I said, even when all of the conditions above have been met, the word doroba is not to strike, it is to go back to the bed. You see, that's what it means there. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa sallim taslim. May Allah make it easy for us to understand His words. May Allah make it easy for us to follow His words. May Allah make it easy for us to practice His words. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa sallim taslim. Ameen. Yeah, so that if this video is shared widely enough, perhaps women and men alike will have enough evidence to stand their ground, so that if ever there is what happened in the video, there are debates or what have you online about this verse, one is able to convincingly argue the fact that the word shouldn't have been translated to strike in the first place. And may Allah make it easy for us. So I'm going to also share I'm going to give great gratitude to there's this website. I'm going to share the link on the video. There's this website that Corpus, Quran Corpus, which is it has been really helpful with going to the roots of the words and searching for all of the mentions of words in the Quran, which I inquire a lot of Muslims to do that when they are doing their research, to not just look at one verse, but to look at the whole mentions of verses in the Quran. So I'll put a link up, hopefully, of the website. Another website that really helped is Lane's, the Lane's Classical Arabic Dictionary, which is really helpful. There are also 3 dictionaries which I've shared on my social media handles. 3 classical Arabic dictionaries that I use generally. I'll also put links and stuff to them, so that anybody that wants to do their own independent research also, you guys can dive in and let's all understand our religion for the better, inshallah, bi kubratullah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa sallam taslim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.